everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Not So Wide Divide. We have the privilege of being having a guest with us this week, Mr. Corey, and he's going to bring a very, I guess, controversial at times, I guess, topic to it. Brendan, can you hear him? Make sure that mic's in. Yeah, full down. So I guess to kind of,
that's how I sit back in the
yeah. Whenever we always talk about having different context and having different people. And Brendan said, "Well, I got a guy that," and then we said it on one of the episodes. He was like, I want to talk with somebody like Flat Earth, somebody that can bring some substance to it. And Brendan's like, "I know a guy." We're like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, let's reach out and see what see what it is." Because personally, I don't know. Personally, I don't know anybody that is
a true.
Somebody that actually believes, like, hey, man, like, this is it and this is why. Or even, I'm not saying that I don't want to say your position because I don't know.
Yeah.
But at least somebody that says it's a possibility. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, let's get him on and let's see what it's about. And so if you can,
thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's no problem, man. Yeah, it doesn't bother me to talk about it.
Brian, can you hear us, Mike?
A lot of people get freaked out about it or think it's crazy. But, I did 5 years of looking into it. And most people aren't going to spend that much time, but
you're right.
I had time to spend, so I did, and I'm convinced, man. Like, I don't know. It's just like you go outside and look at the sky and say it's blue. That's how I feel about it now. So I don't question it.
So what got you there? What got you to that point? And
that's what I was wondering. Like, so obviously you weren't always a believer. I'm sure you grew up just like us, look at a globe, and what got you from that?
A guy hounded me for like weeks, probably a year, close to a year, wanted me to watch something, and I was like, dude, that's stupid. And then eventually one night I was up doing nothing, and I said, all right. He had asked me to watch it again. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. It was like a short little video, maybe 4 or 5 minutes long.
Right.
And I grew up like everybody else, super into NASA, space, planets, whatever. And I used to read like crazy National Geographic, all about space all the time. So I was like, dude, this is the dumbest crap I've ever heard. And I started watching the video. They started asking all these questions, and I'm like, crap, don't have no answer for that. And then, so my skepticism led me to start looking into the different questions they ask. And when you believe something, like now I believe this, you don't really go and look at alternatives. But I had 30-something years of the alternative now, so I'm pretty well versed in that. And but now I'm pretty well versed in the other perspective on the flat Earth side. But so I've heard all the arguments 2 and 4 against whatever. But like I said, now I'm pretty convinced. So
if you can, give me a brief, not necessarily brief, but, kind of summarize the flat Earth theory.
So basically, there's 3 different things that, for me, that sold me on it. And I haven't yet to meet anybody that could counter it because it's not counterable. So there's no curvature anywhere on Earth. I lived in Washington State. I've gone to Miami. I flew from Washington to Miami. So through air, land, and sea, I've covered all kind of area. You don't see curvature anywhere on Earth. The formula that they use for curvature is, I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's something like 8 inches squared per mile or something like that. I have it in my thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but however far you go, for every mile you go, there's a drop because everything's supposed to be curving away from you if you're on the globe. But there's for instance, where we are, it's perfect for where we are. You go to Grand Isle, you go look out, you see the rigs. Shouldn't be able to see them suckers. They like 10, 15 miles away. They should be below the curvature of the Earth, but we could see stuff that's 100 miles away, no problem. So if you just use that as the basis, that's what really got me. Because go to Lake Pontchartrain, the bridge is like 18 miles, 19 miles, supposed to be one of the longest ones on Earth, and it's flat as can be going across. So it should be curving away from you. If you start on one end, on the South Shore going to the North Shore, it should start to curve away, but it's completely flat. So that's the first thing. Second thing, NASA is a complete joke. It's a hoax, like, and that's like a kind of a hand grenade getting thrown in there. But if you're a fanboy of NASA, which I used to be, until you actually start looking at the stuff, once you see it, it's like a magician that's doing a trick. You see the magician doing it over and over again, David Blaine, whoever. You're like, dang, how the hell are they doing that crap? But once you learn the trick, it's stupid. And that's how I am with NASA now, because I know the ways that they fool people. So it doesn't get you anymore. And then the third thing is gravity. Gravity doesn't exist. It's another hoax. I can get into that, but I know, like, time-wise, you probably couldn't. But that's the top three things. And so
gravity doesn't exist.
Yep.
That's just bullshit.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Go for it.
If I were to stand, I guess maybe in New Orleans,
Okay.
and got a really powerful telescope,
Yep.
I should better see somebody waving at me in California.
That's
I mean,
no. That's a good question.
I'm generally
Because
curious.
you could see pretty far, but you got three things going on. You got obstructions, you got mountains, and when we say the Earth's flat, that's where people.
No, I'm talking about no mountains, no nothing. Like,
So just plain-
even 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
You know.
So you got still going to have obstructions because you have air. Air actually distorts images and your ability to see. Your eyes themselves, you can only see a certain.
That's why I'm saying a
range.
telescope.
Even with a
right.
telescope, the telescope's going to have a range of how far it can see. And then there's all the other atmospheric conditions that are going to prevent you from seeing. Now, if you did have a super high, like strong quality telescope, you should be able to see hundreds of miles, which you can. Like you can get a Nikon P900 camera, which it looks like somebody in here does work with photography. You can see I think it's 150 miles or 120 miles is like the furthest somebody can see. But if you're on a flat surface and you can see that far, it just blows the whole globe out the
Okay,
wall.
so I have seen images of, like with the Nikon cameras, zoomed out watching ships.
Yeah, and they say they're supposed to disappear over the curvature of the Earth.
Well, they do.
But when you bring it back,
If those cameras stay on the image, those ships disappear bottom up. Almost looks like they're sinking. How do we explain that?
it's the opposite. But there's a guy that does all kind of like tests and different proofs for the flat Earth, which I would recommend people listen to. That's one of the first people, the guy that hounded me. He told me to go check out his work, and that was the first guy I kind of started checking out. And his work's really awesome. He does all kind of tests, but that's one of the supposed myths that he kind of debunks.
Well, I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, you have to have, like I said, you have to have the camera, and if we could do video on there, I could show you what I'm talking about. But
Yeah, tell him to pull up. He'll pull
Yeah, he'll
up.
pull it up.
yeah, go to Testing the Globe.
Testing the globe.
Yeah.
So the whole, and while he's doing this, I don't. So like just to go to the
It's
NASA
Rob
when he comes
Skiba.
up, the whole, and this is where, and I know it's not. I'm not calling bullshit on you.
Yeah.
But it's like I am like the anti-conspiracy guy.
Yeah.
You know, I just look at this and say it's really hard to
Uh-huh.
keep secrets a secret,
Mhm.
right? Even between amongst of 50 people,
Yep.
can't keep secrets. And you take NASA that has at this point hundreds of thousands of
Yeah, go down.
employees and people and like how is that nobody coming through in agreeing with, even now that people, well, of course it's, but how nobody's coming through with this and saying, hey, look, this is,
Well,
somebody's
it's
got to
compartmentalized is one way they do it. Keep on.
What's compartmentalized? NASA
Yes, sir.
itself?
Yeah. Well, so people work in different departments. So they have a department
Yeah, we can't
that
watch
might
a
do.
39-minute.
No, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but this is if someone would want to go check it out. I mean, this stuff is not like short.
Yeah, no.
They have some videos that are short, but a lot of the stuff
I mean,
you
I've
actually
watched a lot of videos.
Yeah,
on it,
and there was a few things that kind of got me going. I guess, question the whole flat Earth theory.
Yeah.
And the ship thing
just to clarify something, like I started out flat Earth, but then I had a whole different little caveat thrown in there with the hollow Earth. I don't know if you ever looked into that, but that's a whole different ball game. But now that I've seen the evidence for that, I would say it's both hollow and flat. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. We answer our phones. We lay it back. Well, one of the
Says no. So this is a whole other end
Get
of
closer
it.
to the mic if you can.
There's a whole other end of it that's the biblical cosmology is what, if you come from a Christian perspective, and this is another hand grenade.
Right.
So a lot of people try to use the planets and all these other things, but if you look up the definition for what a planet is, it's a wandering star. And if you go from a biblical perspective, the stars, the planets, they're the same thing. They're just entities that were created by God. And I mean, I can go in more detail on that, but
So, and Brent, I'm gonna give you a little assignment if you can. You guys have a map, right? If it's the map that I think I've seen,
yeah, watch, I got a map.
kind
Right
of
here.
looks like a globe that's flattened out.
Yeah,
Basically.
it's the one that the UN uses, the one that
Yeah.
a whole bunch of agencies uses and organizations use. It's got Antarctica around the edge.
Yeah, I think it's the same map. Also, can you just pull up a flat Earth
Yeah.
map, Brennan, if you don't mind?
Yep, that's it right there.
So
It's
that is
Gleason.
completely.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And
Pull
that's
it up.
that's just the closest representation of what they think it is,
So there's
and we
no
can't
north or
explore
south?
that. No, so if you go for north, everything in the center, as you go towards the center, is north. So no matter what
keep that up,
direction you're
Brian.
coming from, going towards the North Pole, and that's why all the compasses. There's two different North Poles. There's the actual North Pole, and then there's a magnetic North Pole.
Okay, so and because this was another question that I had looking at this map.
Yeah.
The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line,
Correct.
right? So, like from South America to Australia,
Yep.
when to fly there, you'd go right over to the United States, right?
Where you said?
So from
Australia?
go down, Brennan, down. You see South America to your left.
Yep.
Okay, the
To Australia, yep.
So the tip of South America,
Uh-huh.
all the way to Australia, which is in the top right,
Correct.
that would be a straight line. It would be the shortest distance there.
Yep.
Right? Planes don't fly that way.
Yeah, you got
They
fuel.
fly from the bottom of South America, and if you put it to the globe thing, it would be a huge arc over that very large body of water.
So you have two different things going into play. For one, you can't fly. They say you can, but there's no proof that you can actually do this. They say you can either fly directly over Antarctica if you go south, if you're using the globe, and they say you can go over the North Pole, which they don't do that.
Well, it's because it's not cost
No reason
effective.
to.
There's no reason. There's,
They say that they always have a justification
but
for it.
you
but-
realize 90% of the population lives in the northern hemisphere.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're talking about 10% of the population live in the southern hemisphere. So there's not that many large areas for airplanes to fly to down there.
Yeah. Well, you have to think of
But
the cost with fuel too.
So how do people get to Antarctica?
Boat usually, a lot of it. They go from boat to
So
usually the southern part of South America. I think it's Argentina or whatever that country is, all the way at the bottom.
it's like Chile, I think, or something.
Yeah, that's the
maybe.
one on the left.
So that flight path that goes all the way to a big arcing area, right? Takes 8 hours.
I don't know.
The flight does. It takes 8 hours to fly from South America to, I think, Sydney, Australia, whatever, that big arc. You want me to get up, Jared, and point to the
No, I can see it. I
Yeah, I'm looking at the mouse.
From New York to Europe,
Uh huh.
8 hours.
Yeah,
How do you explain the difference in the amount of time it takes
I'm not a pilot, so I don't know.
to fly? Well, the answer for me, not being a flat earther, is because the Earth's round.
And I'd have to look at
So
the
if you go-
distances
if you
and
go, you
the speed of the flights
But-
and all.
Because you're flying around the curvature of the Earth, that circumference gets smaller as you get further away from the equator.
Okay, I see what you're saying,
the
but
higher I go, the less distance I have to travel flat.
Yeah.
It's not just that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also one of the things. That's why certain
so-
flights are flown at higher altitudes and lower altitudes, because I don't have to fly further distance
Yeah, yeah. I
if
see
I
what you're
fly
saying.
higher
that
and then come down.
large. Let me. I'm gonna get up and if the mic.
No, I get what you're saying.
I want because the viewers. I don't want any kind of misunderstanding what to get that.
Yeah.
So this from here all the way to this huge arc. This is the flight path that they take. It's a huge arc right here to get to Australia.
Yeah.
And they're saying that takes 8 hours one way, 9 hours the other. It depends on airstreams. It's the same amount of time.
And do they have direct
to get-
flights to each one?
Yes.
Okay.
And it takes the same amount of time to get from here to here. So you're talking about this. I can't do it one hand. This.
I can tell you this: from New York to Iceland, was that little bitty thing right there? 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm
I've
saying.
been,
So,
been there.
but if the
Going
Earth,
there.
if the Earth being flat, that should take way less time than that. Or they would fly straight across, but they don't.
Yeah.
Even if they would, it would still.
Because this would take longer. Flying from here over all of this would take way longer than flying like this. But it's because the circumference of a ball, as you get further away from the center of it, it gets
Smaller.
The distance gets smaller. How do we explain that?
I haven't looked at that in forever, so I don't know. Like I said, when I was looking into this stuff, it's been probably 10 years. So some of the stuff I'm not fresh on, so I can hit on the things I am familiar with.
Right. I'm just
NASA, if you want to go in depth on that, we can go hardcore into that, because I still look at some of that
space
stuff.
travel is like
Yeah, that's
all
a
bullshit.
joke. Yeah, it's. I've listened to y'all previous episode y'all did on like y'all
On the moon and stuff?
yeah.
Right.
And so I'm sure y'all aware of some of the things,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
dude, it's way beyond.
And look, that's
all that
such, that's
stuff.
such a. I would say of all the conspiracy theories, and I'm using that word lightly, that I've looked at, the moon landing's probably the closest one that's gotten me. You know, because
That I
there's
could
so
believe
much.
in.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And y'all brought up a few of the points. So
Right.
why would we not go back?
Right.
Have you ever actually looked into this stuff? It is so ridiculous, the lies that
And
they tell
one of the
people.
things, like we not going back. You can't put a telescope on the Earth and see the flag that was
Yeah.
all those things. So like I said, that's
I mean,
probably
if
the
you wanna-
closest.
that's the first
know.
step. If you go look into NASA, the moon hoax is the biggest thing, and just from there, I mean, going from there, I mean, I could spend hours talking about this,
Right.
just this stuff. Like I know how they
Oh
fake
look, we
stuff
we,
now.
we love a good conspiracy podcast. You are always welcome back. We can deep dive into that for sure.
Well, dude, like I said, that alone, I could give you tons of stuff on that. I mean, we could watch videos. All you gotta do is put watch. I don't think y'all have Instagram, but I could show y'all this video real quick.
Now, while you're looking that up,
Yeah, it's just gonna take a second.
sunrise and sunset.
Yep.
How do we explain those?
As the sun's going further away from you, so if you're using a flat Earth model,
Right.
basically they're traveling the sun and the moon. It's like the
So
yin
all
yang.
there is the sun and the moon and stars.
Correct.
So no other
The
planets.
firmament. The firmament. Yep.
So we'll say that again.
The firmament.
So how close
That's
are
the
these?
dome. The sun.
So there is a dome.
Yeah. That encloses the
Is the
Earth.
sun
That's
inside?
why space travel is,
Is the sun
Yes.
inside or outside of the dome?
because you can't get in. You can't get outside the dome.
So is the sun inside or outside of the dome?
Inside. And now as high as the dome is, depending on, some people think it's super high, some people think it's closer, but the sun and the moon are inside. The stars are encased into it. So, which I said, the stars are angels, the angels are the stars. If you go from a Christian biblical cosmology, that's how we view it. And then as far as the planets, like I said, they are stars, fallen angels, stars. If you read in the book of Jude, it talks about them. They were cast out into utter darkness, and that's a whole nother.
But you can physically see other planets.
Yeah.
You can't see
But they
stars.
aren't. Which no, you can see stars.
I mean,
You
not.
can-
But they're visually different.
Well, they're not what the NASA says they are, though. Like, if you go and look at what NASA says a star looks like, it's like a computer-generated image that they created. Whereas if you go with a telescope or even with a P900, you can see some of them.
And I've seen the Milky Way,
Yeah,
right? Like that. So how is that explained if space doesn't exist?
well, we're not saying space doesn't exist. I'm saying space doesn't exist as NASA says it exists. The Milky Way is just a bunch of stars. Like,
It's not
we're not
it's
a
not a
part of like
nine-planet.
billions of galaxies in an ever expanding universe. Blah blah blah. It's
So I have
It's just a fairy tale.
two questions. The first one. So two things can't be true at the same time. The sun can't be inside and outside the dome at the same time,
yep.
right?
It's inside.
So if it's inside, then how do you explain a lunar eclipse?
Like once again, I'm not brushed up on the
I get that, but
dynamics of the
you know what a lunar eclipse is?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
when the Earth goes in
in
between
the shadow. Yeah,
The Earth passes in between the sun
but the
and the
lunar
moon.
eclipse and the solar eclipse is
They're different.
well, yeah, of course. But if you look at them, they're not both. One of them is just it's ridiculous. But like once again, I haven't brushed up on that in a while. So any of the workings of like the sun and the moon, I'm not like fluid in that just because I haven't looked at it in a while. But
Just give us the dynamic of, because again, as our thought process is that everybody, I say everybody, most people understand the concept of our solar system,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So explain
in that
how does a flat Earth solar system, if you can't inside how does that work?
It's
if the sun,
if you follow the
Earth-
stars, if you follow the track of the stars, everything revolves around the Earth. It's not we revolving around the sun, like the heliocentric model, which was, I mean, there's so many different ways you can go with
again,
this.
that's why I'm
give us
but
the
that's why-
kindergarten
but
explanation of
But
that
that's the
model.
thing. The kindergarten explanation is the globe because that's what they teach kids
No,
all
but
the way
I mean,
from the time they're little.
If you had or flat Earth believers have to write
not
a
a
lesson
not a
plan.
solar eclipse, Brendan. So a solar eclipse is when the moon passes in between the Earth and the sun, right? That can happen with something being flat. But a lunar eclipse,
And a lot of
is
the
when
explanations-
the Earth passes in between the sun and the moon, and like the moon kind of gets blocked out because the Earth's shadow is cast on the moon. You can't do that with a flat surface. Like it doesn't
Because you have three
compute.
revolving
Right,
things.
spheres.
So how does
right.
Yeah, so the solar one is what they're saying. Is
Right, that's a
proves the
solar
flat
eclipse.
Earth. And the lunar one is a completely. That's the whole thing. Like, there's some things that'll work whether it's a flat or a globe.
Not a lunar eclipse, though.
Certain things, certain mechanisms.
The
work either
problem that I
way.
found, because I tried to do a little research before we came, I wanted to walk in with just a rudimentary
Yeah.
understanding. And one of the things that I couldn't find on the Flat Earth websites was the explanation for a lunar eclipse, because
Yeah.
they don't have one.
Yeah,
They
a
also
lot of
don't-
stuff
they
you're not
also-
going to find just in
They
general.
also don't have,
because they scrubbed up like 90% of the stuff they used to have.
but they also
scrub?
The government.
they also don't have an explanation for the flight paths.
Yeah.
And the only explanation that I found was wind currents, but that's like 400 mile an hour winds it would take.
Yeah.
And then it can't explain two planes traveling in opposite directions, because one of them would get all that 400 mile an hour wind headwind.
So if y'all would,
Right. So there's
yeah. So if you're interested, so
well,
I got
I'm
into
interested
this.
in everything. That's why we do
I
this
got into
podcast.
this in
Why I
like
love it.
2015, and the stuff you used to be able to find back then is like light years ahead of what you can find now. Like they have scrubbed so many things. Like I actually, before I came, this site I used to use that had all kind of information, probably that would answer a lot of the questions y'all brought up. It says this is no longer accessible, and that's a lot of stuff
Now,
And pertaining to this
let me
particular
ask you a
topic.
question. Could that be it could be the government shutting it down, but I would offer an alternative to that is if they can't prove the points that they're making,
shut
could
it
they
down.
have possibly shut it down themselves to
No,
avoid
it's not
ridicule?
that. I mean,
to
dude,
avoid
that's,
legality issues.
oh, it's not a legal issue. They have a case. A guy's offered millions of dollars to prove the globe, and no one's ever taken up his challenge. And he's,
I find that hard to believe.
oh,
Does he
dude,
legitimately have $1 million?
check it out, dude. Put
his name?
Google, I don't know the guy's name. This is years. I mean, they've had people over the last 100 years have done this. Money offered to prove the globe.
So International Space Station, bullshit.
Yeah,
So it doesn't exist.
dude. No, there's a studio set that exists.
So every
That they film
astronaut is
everything.
part of the conspiracy. Everybody has been up in space.
Yep. Well, they've never been in space, but
So nobody's been in space.
they have a lower Earth orbit. That's what they've been in, and that's inside the firmament because they can't get outside of that. Dude, like I said,
So how do you-
this is all inflammatory. If you
no, I
never
get
looked
it.
into
No,
this
no,
stuff.
we're not trying. Look,
I guess I'm trying to, because again,
I would love to be part of something that's like, aha, bitch, we got you.
Told you.
Right? Like, told y'all this. I would love to. So don't think that like for a second we're trying to ridicule or trying.
No, that's
I'm
the thing.
legitimately
Hey,
asking
I would
questions.
do the
If
same
these questions
thing.
could get answered, then
No,
I
I would
agree.
do the same
And
thing.
it's like, I've watched serious documentaries about.
Yeah,
This
give
is a
us
good
some homework, man.
This
We
is
can definitely have you
this is
back
a guy
on
that doesn't believe the Earth's flat, by the way, but he is completely against NASA. You can look this on the thing. You can put something funny happened on the way to the moon, and this guy, he's done several documentaries. Something funny happened on the way to the moon. That's it right there. And talk about like stuff gets scrubbed. The guy, he's been targeted by the CIA because of the stuff he tries to expose. And I mean, you can he made a
Is that a
documentary
YouTube
about that.
or is it a movie or
It's a
Video.
movie.
where do I find that at?
I mean, I could send you links to all these things.
Yeah. Send that to Brennan.
But
Send it to
he
him.
tried to get the astronauts to swear on the Bible.
They wouldn't.
And
do
they
it.
wouldn't. A couple of them even punched him. I think it was either Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong punched him. And he's got several good documentaries. But he breaks down, like, if y'all really interested in the moon stuff,
Oh, yeah.
he breaks
Well,
that
always.
down, like, really, really well.
Um,
And like I said, that's a guy that doesn't believe the Earth's flat. So, but if
Right.
you...
Well, that's, see, to me, I get that. And that's what everybody, even in just topic conversations, because, I mean, you get informed, you start chatting, it's like, I get it. It always leads to something else like the moon or something.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's completely two different things. Like, I can come 100, like the guy that says he don't believe the Earth's flat, but he believes the moon conspiracy. Like, I
Right,
get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Because just cost and just, like, the whole thing, why we never been back. Why spend, like, that's the easiest answer is just why spend the money if you've been there, what's the point of going back?
Well,
Right?
the funny thing you mentioned the money part. NASA, this is just if you go look at how much money they've been taking in over the last
It's ridiculous.
60
yeah.
years.
Trillions of dollars.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and
Right.
to say that they don't have the money to go back is
Oh, it's not that they don't have the money. What's
they
the
have
point of
the money.
spending
Like I look, you gotta understand, dude. Like I'm a firm believer in, like we waste a lot of money on the space program.
Yeah.
Right. Like don't get me wrong. Like
But once you-
I think there's
once you
bigger
get
bigger
into it-
issues that we could be addressing with that
Yeah.
money than space. But
Yeah.
I also understand the importance of exploration and all that. But getting back to the flat Earth, I guess my last hindrance is there are certain areas of our Earth that are dark most of the time, right, and light other times of the year because of the way the Earth supposedly curves and such. So how do you explain that with the dome? If the sun's rotating around the Earth, shouldn't every place be lit the same amount of time year round?
once again that's another anything revolving the mechanics of the Earth, like with the sun
Right.
and moon. I'd have to go in. I mean, if you want to specifically do that, I could go in bananas and go back and research what I can find on that and come back and do a thing just on that. But
But see, that's my, like, because
It's not a topic
of
you
the
can-
axle, right? Like,
Right.
yeah,
because Alaska's dark 6 months out the year.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Right.
like there's so many places
Brendan,
that
pull up that flat map again.
our people live, and it's like it's not a
yeah.
You know, so how does that
so-
explain?
This is what I've seen, Jared, from the research that I was looking at last night. That most flat earthers believe that the sun during the summer months rotates on a smaller axis around, and And then during the winter months, it actually goes more towards the edge,
Yeah.
and it comes around like this. The problem with that is, during the month of December, right, you have areas at the bottom of the earth, right around South America, that it's daylight till like, I don't know,
They're like 24
like,
hours.
till, well, no, it's not, but it's
30
like,
30 days.
It's till like 10 p.m. that it's the sun sets. At the same time, the spots in Alaska that are complete darkness for that same time period in December, 24 hours a day. With the position of the Earth, it would be lighting up both. That's what I have questions
Yeah.
about. Like, it doesn't matter how far away it is. And to get back to the sunset thing, if the sun's just moving further away when it sets, the object should be getting smaller. Right?
Yeah.
Things that go further away get smaller. The sun doesn't. It maintains its size
So it's gone.
till it's gone, and it's like things like that because it's going over the horizon. That's
Like, I could send you videos on how that works because it's a perspective thing. But like I said, if you want to focus on a specific
So I don't get
element,
how it's perspective because no matter where you are
Where you-
on the earth,
right.
that's what it does. So it
Right.
doesn't matter.
okay, so talk about perspective. Like he's mentioning South America, the time getting late, like the sun being there till 10 and then it'd be dark. You can see people in Australia and people in the U.S. supposedly on opposite ends of this, like northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. They could both see the same thing at the same time, the sun or the moon. They could both be seeing it at the same time. If you're looking at a globe, that's not supposed to happen because on the globe model, the sun is lighting up one side while the other side's dark. If you're looking at it that way, because of the axis of the Earth.
but it depends on the time of year
Yeah, but
because the
if
Earth
you're
only
opposite
spins.
United States, Australia, you're opposite ends of the globe.
Yeah, but
Allegedly.
you're not opposite ends. Again, the globe doesn't sit vertical,
Yeah, it's
right? So
at
the
an angle.
opposite ends don't. Yeah, so it's very easily.
But you shouldn't be able to see the moon and the sun at the same time on both of those places, unless it's not a globe.
So you're telling me at 8 o'clock p.m.
Uh-huh.
in Houma, Louisiana, and Sydney, Australia, at certain times of the year, you can see the sun and the moon at the same exact time in two different places?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Is that?
Wow, I don't have.
I mean, you know, I mean, I've just never even scratched time
let's-
zones and
Yeah,
Right.
you know, like if my watch at 8 o'clock here, and then at 8, if I take my, you know, you're like, hey, you take my watch, I'm gonna take your watch, and we're gonna go. And at 8 o'clock, I should be up. And I mean, that's what you're saying. You should be
Yeah.
able to see you that's a real thing that you can see the sun and the moon.
Oh, you
in
can see
both
the sun and
places.
the moon.
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah,
the
I understand
time.
that, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I
it's-
took pictures the other day. I was seeing the moon at like noon,
Sure.
but that's shouldn't be the case on the globe. You shouldn't. It shouldn't be that easy for you to see both at the same
Well, it's
time.
not easy because you can't see it every day.
But
It
are
depends
there
on the
any-
positioning of.
Are there any flat Earth maps with a scale on it, like a scale?
A distance scale?
Yeah.
But so, if you go with the three things I mentioned, there is no gravity, there is no curvature. You can't get around the curvature thing. If you could prove or show me where there's curvature, I would be on board with the globe. But you can't. No matter where you go on Earth,
But there's
I've
certain
been all over the place.
just shooting over a mile. You have to take into consideration the curvature of the Earth with the drop of the bullet.
You don't.
Talk to every sniper. Find me a sniper that's flatter. And look, I'm on board 100%. I'm a hunter, and I know shooting 500
I'm
yards.
a hunter too.
Right.
So
And
I mean, how do
all the questions that you have, they have answers to
if
it.
gravity's not real,
Yeah.
then why does shit fall?
Because it's buoyancy and density. Buoyancy and density. Heavier things are gonna fall. Like if you take this is heavier than the air, so it's gonna fall. In
And how
water,
do ships float?
it's the same thing.
No, that's buoyancy, but they're denser than a rock.
Yeah, but they're spread out. There's answers to all this stuff.
I get it. That's called science.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you look into it, it's all explainable with buoyancy, density,
I'm gonna
and
save you some time, Brennan. They
electromagnetic.
don't have a flat Earth map with a scale on it because it disproves their theories. So you won't find one put out by a flat earther with a scale on it.
You're talking about a distance scale.
Distance scale.
Yeah.
You won't find
Because that's, I mean, how that's.
But like I said, you go into those three things. The first one, if you can show me curvature anywhere on Earth,
Well,
be
I can
on board with you.
I can show you videos where those Nikon cameras,
Yep.
if they stay on the object, because a lot of times what you see with the flat Earth theory is they'll show the object for a few seconds,
No, I've
and
seen.
then they go off of it. If the ship is going away from you,
Yeah.
that ship disappears bottom. It almost is like it's sinking. It disappears bottom up from those same Nikon cameras. I've seen those. I watched a video on that this morning while I was getting ready.
Put Rob Skiba in. Does
Yeah, this is the curvature thing. So, like, I mean, if you've ever been even in a commercial
The
flight,
sun
I've been
setting
in
shows
like,
curvature.
you can
all
easily see. Again,
In a-
I'm not a scientist, but you can obviously
What?
see a bend
Yeah.
of the horizon.
The only time you see that is if there's specifically in an airplane, is that the windows they're the lens of the window curved.
Because the plane's curved.
In a hot air balloon,
If you
you
out
can
and
see it.
no, you can't.
You absolutely
And
can.
I
He's been up
promise you.
in hot air balloons.
Absolutely can.
It looks the same. Like
And again, I'm not saying that that's curvature. I'm not saying that that's the curvature of the Earth.
but
Yeah.
it looks like
But I'm
it.
saying you can physically see the horizon has a bend to it.
with your eyes,
Correct.
not with a camera.
Correct. Well, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, so only thing a
I've
camera
never- I've
is
never
two
seen
lenses.
that. I've never
So how do
seen
you
that.
how do I say that it doesn't take the curvature away because of the convex and concave lenses in the camera?
Yep. I've never seen that with a camera that's not a fisheye lens, and I've never seen that with my eyes. I've like I said, I've traveled in the air, on a plane.
So satellite
Thousands of
imagery.
miles.
Just Google Nikon camera images of ships disappearing over the horizon. Save yourself some time.
So,
So
yeah.
you can go
So
on YouTube.
I'm
Like I
100%
said-
on board if you sit here and tell me that you believe that NASA's a hoax and it's just a money scam. I got you. I don't.
to a degree.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like I'm not.
But
Kinda like the war on
reason
drugs. There's no
why-
It's a
war. There's no
government
money.
The reason why
agency.
it's a conspiracy is the actual question that we should ask. It's not just that it is, because it is, but the reason why. Like, why would they be doing that?
So
why
why?
would they care if the Earth is
It's
like,
round
if it
or
was
flat?
flat or round? Why would they care?
Because it denies God, God's creation. God created Earth, and if you take that out, you put heliocentric. We are insignificant little specks in an ever-expanding universe. Your life.
So you're
doesn't
saying you
matter.
can't be a Christian and believe?
No, you can be a Christian and believe it, but the Bible, they want to destroy God. That's the whole reason for this. They wouldn't have atheists.
But it's been here. That's what I mean. I get what I get it, but how does that hold weight when this has been around? When religion,
Every ancient culture had a flat Earth cosmology. Everyone. You bring up,
they also had aliens.
yeah, that's a whole different thing. Aliens are demons or fallen angels. And
Man,
that,
you're gonna find
we
a lot
can-
of
we
clips
can-
that are cut real short.
We could
on
go
those.
on
Just
like
find
any of the
one
rabbit trails
of-
you want to go
like, take
down.
the flat
I've
Earth
looked
part
into
out.
all of them,
Just put
but
ship going
that
away over the
specific
horizon
thing,
or something like that with a
if you
camera.
go look into that, that's why they want to.
So your whole position of it's it's,
you can look
it's
at this, but
religion
just keep
based.
going down and take all the flat Earth.
Well, yeah, if you look at it, because NASA and specifically NASA, almost every single astronaut that supposedly went to the moon was a Freemason. They're Jesuit Freemason, and if they aren't one of those, they're a Mormon. Every single one of them. Go look that up.
I don't necessarily think that this is the problem with information these days is that you can't validate the truth of it because you're trying
can
to tell me
validate
that
it,
every astronaut's
That went
religious
that
preference
allegedly went
is
to the moon.
allegedly went to the moon. That their
You might have a
religious
better
preference
chance. You might have a better
is
chance,
public information.
Well,
YouTube
the ones
or
that
something.
allegedly went to the moon is because
There
they
was
put
flat
a
Earth.
Freemasonic
That's
flag
because
on the moon.
look, like you'd
And
almost
they
think
had
flat
a
earthers get
ceremony up
Nikon
there, allegedly.
money, bro. Like it's.
But all that stuff, dude, you could find pictures of it put in.
I missed what y'all talking about. I was trying to help Brennan.
Yeah,
with, so.
no, just
Like
I
I,
guess
said,
what I
all-
said,
this whole rabbit trail, like I said, it's meant to lead people away from God because there would not be an atheist in the world if they knew that creation was what the Bible said.
But how does
That's where
how
the
does
whole
around
firmament-
how does a round Earth disprove the existence of Christ? Because I
around
don't
Earth is
I don't believe in the flat Earth theory,
yeah,
obviously.
that's fine.
But I'm also
You
a
don't have
Christian.
to. Yeah.
And I also believe in God, and I believe
Yeah.
in Jesus, and
One doesn't exclude the other,
Yeah,
but-
never once during my journey of faith has the curvature of the earth ever been brought up.
I know. That's by design.
But like it's
That's what I don't get. So I mean, if religion is the base of the premise behind
Yep.
flat Earth, why is that not discussed in any religion, anywheres?
So
So like,
religion,
there's not a single major religion that supports flat Earth, but if
Yes.
it's a Christian belief, then
Islam does, because they're going off the Old Testament, which is where this whole thing originates. If you go back and look in the Old Testament in Genesis, it breaks down like the firmament, and there's other books that it talks about it. And the Book of Enoch is really important, where it gives you like a lot of the questions you're asking about the sun, the moon, and all these things, and the stars. It gets into that.
like I
You're not
really-
gonna. This is the thing on YouTube. Everything's curated. You're not gonna find a pro unless you know exactly who to look for. The top 30 or 40
Jared,
videos.
what kind of camera does your wife have?
It's gonna be.
a lot different cameras.
Like she has one that can zoom out a mile or so.
So this
Probably not a mod.
this is what I was talking about.
Because
you need
Everything
some
is-
super telephoto shit to get that far.
Completely
Like-
different than it was
you can get these
7
kind of
years ago.
distances, I'm sure. With her,
You can't
with her
find the
equipment.
information
Like,
anymore.
So I mean,
I'll send you some videos.
I mean, a
later
70
you
to
can maybe
200.
splice in or
Are you
something.
talking? So the
I'll
things
find the
he's talking
links
about-
and I can
you're-
send you
yeah,
the
send it
links
to us,
because
The
look,
lens that he's talking about on a Nikon for that style lens, a 900 millimeter lens or better, you're talking about $20,000 lens.
Gotcha.
Like you're not talking about shit that anybody just goes by.
no,
like,
these guys are
class photographers don't have like there's
Hardly a need
that's the thing
for
you
it,
said.
unless you're
You
trying to
find
spy
a
on them.
sniper.
a lot of these guys raise money to get some of these things, this equipment that they use to do these tests because it is expensive.
ridiculously
It's not
expensive.
enough for like a normal person like
No.
us to go and grab. But what I was mentioning to Brennan just now, if you go and try to look on the major search, YouTube, Google, whatever, it's curated. The information you can't find it
But
like you used to.
why would it be?
That's a great question. Why would it be? If it's not a big deal, if flat Earth is not a big deal, why would they try to hide everything?
If flat Earth is religion based,
Uh-huh.
most of these people are anti-Christian.
Yep, they are.
So why would they want to hide eons of belief if they can go, ha ha? Gotcha.
Well, they want to distract and confuse people. It doesn't matter how. Like they could do the whole thing with I don't know, just make up a thing going to Mars. Like y'all were talking about in your podcast
Yeah,
where y'all
yeah.
discussed it. Why would we go to Mars when we can't go back to the moon? And if you listen to the NASA people, the guy said we destroyed the technology to go back to the moon, and it's too difficult to build it back. That's an exact
That's
quote.
bullshit.
I don't
that's
believe
not-
that for a second.
that's what I'm saying. That's how
taking
ridiculous.
vacations into space, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. They and
Right.
if you go look at this stuff, like I said, this is like a multiple, hours and hours of looking into these things. You can get them. I've watched probably 30 something hours of NASA footage, if not more, of them in their own words. This isn't people like making a spoof of them. This is all straight NASA
From their
official
mouth,
footage.
right.
And they're like complete idiots. The people, if you don't look at it, you would think these are the top scientists and like engineers that the Earth has to offer. These are like the smartest, the brightest people we have, and these people are freaking morons. Like, it's ridiculous. And me saying that, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but
some of these astronomers, like they can predict things like eclipses and there's tons of math equations that they can do where they can tell you almost to a second the trajectory that the moon is going to come over the Earth exactly during lunar eclipse years in advance.
yeah, it's because the
Like,
Earth
they
is a
have-
clock. And God
they-
designed it that way. That's why if you go back and look at all these things, all these different
Comets
mechanics,
and
they can predict stuff. They can go back all the way like thousands of years and tell you the eclipses and whatever happened back then, because things don't change. And if we were spinning at 10,000 miles an hour at the equator, traveling through space at 60 something thousand miles, going through the Milky Way at 100 something thousand miles, those things you wouldn't be able to do that.
If you point a camera up at the stars,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you film that, you can see
Perfect circle.
Like you can see the spinning over like the North Star.
Yep.
Right.
But
If you're in the
it's not
northern
perfect,
hemisphere, hold on.
is
If you're in the northern hemisphere,
Yeah.
you can't see the North Star from the southern hemisphere.
Correct.
You can see the Southern Cross from the southern hemisphere, but
Yeah.
you can't see from the
And
northern
there's
hemisphere.
explanation for that too. It's the way that the stars play off the firmament, the reflection.
And
Like
there's-
if you look at a something and it reflects back,
But how
it
do you,
gives you a
like-
flip flop.
And again, I know we can go on forever with these, but it's like you keep saying the firmament, like
Yeah.
so nobody's ever
You
been
can't
to
get
it.
out. Yep. You can't get out of it. You can't get in.
But who's tried?
NASA, Operation Fishbowl. Look that up. They sent nuclear missiles to try to break through it, and they couldn't get through it. After that, Operation Fishbowl, there was like 4 of them. I can't. High jump was another one. Deep freeze. They basically figured out, hey, we can't get out of here.
How do
And then that's whenever they put the Antarctic Treaty in place.
explain people all over the world in the southern hemisphere
Yeah.
looking south
Uh-huh.
and all seeing the Southern Cross in the night sky?
Like I said, it's a playoff. Like,
But they're,
if you
but
give
they're,
me a list of things
but they're
y'all
not-
want
they're not
go
all
into
looking in the
depth
same
on, we could do
direction.
it multiple
on a
things.
flat map, they wouldn't
Yeah.
all be looking in the same direction.
There's explanations for it. I guarantee you.
I mean,
I
is there-
can't
is
give
there
it
a
to you
north-
'cause I haven't
Is there
looked
a
at it.
north and south? Because that's
Like I said, the mechanic stuff. If you want to get into that, I'm big on the
that's
NASA stuff
but
because I still
what
look at that on a
That's what
regular
it would take
basis.
to convince me that the Earth is flat. Is I need some answers to the questions that not even the sciencey stuff, just things
Yeah.
that are
So
in my
what
brain
is the
are-
point of NASA then? Strictly to disbelieve
Just-
God?
just money.
Yeah, well, them
Well, I mean,
suckers are
it's not
definitely
money, but I
jacking
mean-
money like left and right. But yeah, to
So
lead
a country,
people away from
so a
God,
country that was
and whether they say that or not,
I
that's
get
the
it,
intent.
but a country that was designed and it was created, right,
Mm-hmm.
for freedom of belief,
Yeah,
created an agency
yeah,
specifically to disprove that.
yeah.
Like that,
Dude,
that
like,
can't. That's what,
If y'all,
and you say NASA, like NASA was
Yeah.
created, but this is not a United States issue.
who created NASA? Y'all know that?
I don't.
You know? Who started NASA? Who you think started NASA?
I think so. The NASA,
Yeah.
the United States government.
Then the United States government brought over a bunch of Nazis.
Oh yeah, I knew that. I knew
Operation
that.
Paperclip.
Yeah, I know.
Check
I know
into
about,
that.
I know about Operation Paperclip.
And
but
Werner von Braun, he was the guy that, so they say, was the
They
original.
were rocket scientists, right?
Yeah, but not
yeah.
just him. The other guy that was partnered up with him, you know who it was?
There were quite a few Nazis that came over.
Yeah, there was hundreds of them.
Right.
Yeah,
To
and we
NASA.
used them
No,
instead
yeah.
of putting them in the ground where they for war crimes. We used
I get
them
that. We
to-
still do that to this day.
Yeah.
If somebody's beneficial to our country, we'll use that benefit rather than
But Werner von
war
Braun and Jack Parsons, that's who developed NASA. Or
well, the
originally
United States
started it.
developed NASA, but they hired some.
So these two Germans,
Well, Jack Parsons was American.
so,
Werner
so
von
these two
Braun.
guys created this $1 trillion industry
Yeah.
50
And
years
You're
ago.
talking about two hardcore Satanists, by the way.
Okay, so I get that. Have convinced.
the world.
Oh,
But
But it's not hard to convince the world
But how
whenever
do
you
we-
have the
how do we
budget they
explain-
have backed by the government.
but this is
pre-NASA.
NASA.
like
these.
yeah.
This is not
the world being round was way before NASA.
No, dude.
It was.
Bruh, I could show you all this stuff. Like this is a multiple
Like
hours
astronomers from
deal.
ancient Greece were saying the world was round.
Nope.
They were.
I promise you, bro. I've looked into all
They were, and
this
they
stuff.
use those calculations to make a lot of.
Because again,
a
they
lot
would
of
say you would,
predictions
you know,
and
One
a lot
of the biggest hoax myths, if you really look into it, is Eratosthenes. That's where you're probably thinking of. And if you go and look at this, it is thinking logically, like y'all were talking about, looking at the map, distances and whatnot. Dude, it's a joke. Like, if you go and look, a lot of this stuff, it might make sense just on like quick looking at things, but once you actually start looking at stuff in depth, it doesn't make sense mathematically, scientifically, just logically.
Like, okay, I hear you, and
But they want people to take whatever they say and just run with it, like, and
in
not
today's
not
day and
look
age,
into
with,
it.
with technology and people in today, 2022.
Yeah,
You have so many people. The general population is all about challenging the status quo.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
not just that, man. China or Russia,
dude, have you seen their video?
who hate us.
Yeah, why would they not say, hey, these motherfuckers are
They've been
full of
lying to
shit?
y'all, bro. Like look at us. This is the firmament,
Dude,
Yeah, like,
right? Like, look, we're knocking on the firmament,
one
bro.
of the,
Like,
if you want to look at it, the funniest thing is go look at the Antarctic Treaty. It's the only treaty that's never been broken, and there's like dozens of countries that are in it: Russia, China, U.S., all the big players on the world scene. Man, what the crap? But that's the only treaty that's never been broken.
and what is that treaty for?
That prevents anyone from exploring Antarctica.
They explore Antarctica all the time.
Yeah,
You
they.
can go Google jobs in Antarctica. You can go to Antarctica right now if you want to.
The only person that can go there is if you're affiliated with the government and you have some high level clearance, whether they say you're a scientist or whatever. You're not going to go there unless you're going to promote or
I
protect
guarantee you,
that.
Elon Musk could go to Antarctica today if he wants to.
Yeah, he's part of the club. He's the
If-
billionaire that.
Elon, look, we're gonna go up from 800,000. Give me $1 billion. We're gonna build a private boat. We're gonna go have a podcast from Antarctica. I guarantee you I can do
No,
that.
they won't let anybody go down there
won't?
unless the powers that be, the people that run things,
Like, how they gonna stop it?
dude, they'll shoot you. If you got a boat, if you chartered a boat, if you had enough money to charter the boat to go down there, as soon as you get close to the waters, they're gonna shoot you.
Antarctica?
Yeah, they're gonna shoot
You
you
ever
down.
seen the show on TLC or whatever, the Discovery Channel called Whale Wars?
Yeah.
There's Japanese ships,
All
in
over
Australian
Antarctica. They
ships
don't-
in Antarctica all the time.
All the time.
They
will
might be a couple
They will.
hundred miles off, but
No,
they don't
like
let
they
you
can
get
see it.
close
I mean, see what?
to what's actually there.
What's
Have y'all
the-
seen
what's there?
Admiral Byrd's interview from like the 30s where he discusses what he found there?
No.
Y'all should check that out.
So give me,
He talks
5
about-
seconds of what he's talking
He talks about all the stuff he explored when he went down there.
Like what? I mean, what is the...
Lands, like crazy amount of stuff, resources, oil, natural
I don't
resources.
doubt that 100%.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's
that's
been
the thing. They don't
locked in
want,
ice. I mean, there's no difference in what's the resources that are in Alaska and the Arctic Circle that nobody, like, that's why I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, I agree with that 100%. But why does that say that it's flat? And why does it say
But
that...
why
Pull up a
wouldn't they
job
let
search
people
and
go
to
there?
Antarctica. We're gonna
You know
do
what
a
people,
job.
you know
I'm
what
serious.
off the
Pull
coast of
up.
California?
Yeah, but dude, this is the thing. You can go off the coast of California, but
You can't drill it.
well, it don't matter if you can drill it or not. I'm talking about you can't.
these people
you
will
personally
hunt by
can't go
Antarctica.
over there and go explore it. If you had the money, like say you were Elon Musk and you were a billionaire, you probably wouldn't be a billionaire unless you were part of their club. But say you just random person had enough money, you could not fund yourself to go down there, like unless you were part of that club.
now.
If you were not in that mix, they would not let you go down and explore willy-nilly. They've killed people for trying to do that. Like if
20
you tried to
best
cross
Antarctica
I forgot
jobs
what
are
the
now.
actual limit of it is. It's a certain distance off the coast. If you get within
14
that,
urgent job.
the military will shoot. If you're in a boat,
So
they'll
is
shoot you
military
down.
there?
Yeah,
Zipper
there's a
cruiser.
military there.
Who's military?
All the countries that are in that treaty. If you look up the Antarctic Treaty, what's that? Oh, that's good. I'll go a little bit more. But if you look up the Antarctic Treaty and look at all the countries that are represented, every single one of them has some sort of
So it's a global conspiracy.
yeah.
But you know what other treaty?
flat
You know what
earth.
other treaty hasn't
Well, I
been?
mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
You know
look,
what other treaty hasn't been
maybe not
broken?
global, flat, yeah.
The space treaty hasn't been broken either, to my knowledge.
What's
There's
that?
no weapons in space, and that's a treaty that hasn't been broken either.
I don't know anything about that. I've never heard that before, but
Yeah, you can't put weapons in space.
heard of that before. But
So like satellites real?
no.
So there's no satellites. So how does the GPS
NASA
How do I get my freaking
NASA owns the most high
TV.
altitude weather balloons than anyone else, and these weather balloons are freaking massive.
Yeah.
Like, you ever seen what they look like? I mean, they're hundreds,
like,
they're
not
hundreds,
in-
of, they're
not in, like,
hundreds of
person.
feet. They're like crazy big.
Yeah.
And that's what the satellites people say they have up there. That's what it is. They just
It's on a weather balloon.
yeah, and they can stay up there up like 15, 20 years.
So that's how DirecTV and stuff like that gets.
Probably, yeah. And they have planes that go all around and they bounce signals back and forth. But 99% of the communications is done under the water. I don't know if you know that.
Well, wait. 99% of what communication?
All
So
communications.
cell phone communication is definitely not
No,
on
cell phone communications is terrestrial. That's land-based towers.
Correct.
That's line of sight. That's why they got to put.
Definitely not line of sight, though.
Well, that's why they got to put 1,000 of them suckers just to get a signal, and why you can't get a signal if you go out into an area that doesn't have any towers.
But that's not how
But
radio
then
frequency works.
Nixon's calling the moon on a landline back in 1960, whatever. That's ridiculous. That's like a whole thing with going back to the moon.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, again, I can easily explain that.
You
From
think
patching
that
to- I mean-
Nixon was able to call the moon?
I mean,
So
I
you
could patch
can
you
call
in
your
right
cell phone,
now.
patch you into this board, and I can get
Right.
you on this
Yeah, but
podcast.
that's a different technology than
Exactly, that's a different
landline.
technology.
A landline calling
So-
the moon.
so a sat
that's
phone-
supposed to be 250,000 miles away,
So how do you...
and you can't
how do
call
you-
somebody.
So a satellite phone, whether
Yeah.
that's not, they're not real, but they work.
But a satellite
Because there's
they didn't
areas-
have satellites up there. In the,
No, I'm saying right now, a satellite today,
Yeah. Okay.
right? Like
Uh-huh.
a satellite phone work. Let's all agree in this conversation that the whole moon landing was bullshit.
Yeah.
Get that?
Okay.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, because we keep going back
Right,
to
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's like
okay,
that's
well,
not.
yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because I'm really trying to get a hardcore something for me to go. Like,
Well, dude, the whole thing, like I said, if y'all want to go to Grand Isle, dude, I'll go with y'all to Grand Isle. We can find out how far the rigs are, the ones that you can see from the shore, and the distance of that.
But there's
how
certain,
tall
there's
they
certain,
are.
this is the problem.
You shouldn't be
with
able to
that.
see them after a certain distance.
Yeah, but that's not-
This
that's
is the
not
problem.
how-
Well, hold up. The problem with viewing things over water is refraction.
Yep.
Okay. That's why I said land. Like if I'm sitting in Louisiana
Okay.
and there's nothing that obscuring my vision, and I'm not going over water where I have to deal with refraction. If I